Welcome to Arts Roll Call, a podcast showcasing artists and arts organizations, highlighting the role of the arts today in Greater Lansing. I'm Robin Miner-Swartz. I'm an editor, communications consultant, and a lifelong arts advocate. And today I'm talking with Sarah Arredondo, an artist, photographer, and graphic designer who has made a significant impact on the art industry in Old Town and in the Greater Lansing area. Sarah began her career in newspapers, working as a photographer and graphic designer, developing an eye for capturing moments and telling stories through art. A memorable stint at Seasons, a popular shop in Okemos, Michigan, sparked her desire to merge her fine art background with the charming atmosphere of a boutique. And in 2010, Sarah opened Catalyst Art Gallery and Gift Boutique in Old Town and has featured the work of hundreds of local artists alongside pieces from creators around the world. The store also offers a selection of items that gives it a museum meets retail feeling, making it really a must-visit destination for art lovers in town. Sarah, welcome to Arts Roll Call. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to get this opportunity to talk to you. I have been a patron of Catalyst. I'll just do full disclosure, and I'm a big fan of you and of the store. And so I'm excited to hear more about your background, starting with let's talk about newspapers. When you were working in newspapers, where did you see your career path taking you at that point?
Well, I was very happy doing what I was doing, but as you know, like the newspaper industry is, forming its own new path, like more digital, and print was becoming by the wayside. So I kind of had to stop and think, like, what would make me happy? What do I want to do with my life after this? And I thought, well, I loved working at Seasons, and I have a passion for photography. So how can I marry the two, and what was that going to look like? So that's how Seasons Catalyst became what I wanted to do next with myself.
So how long was that road? What did it take from, okay, I like these two things, I'd like to put them together, to 2010 opening the doors?
Well, I graduated in 2000 from school, and not too long after that, I started working in a digital lab, and then I found Seasons, and while I was working at the digital lab, my friend that also worked there worked at the newspaper, and she was like, hey, we have some openings, you should apply. And so that's how that kind of started. And then once I was in the newspaper industry, like I said, I loved like being a photographer. I went out to different retail locations and to like auto lots and took pictures of like the new cars that came out. It was really cool, and it was really fun to be like out in the community. So when I knew that that wasn't going to be an option any longer, I tried to like think to myself, what do I want to do next? And so I started dreaming and plotting, and I bought fixtures from stores that were going out of business. Like I knew that I was going to do this. I just didn't know like where and when. So
you bought lights before you even had a space.
Yes.
That is very optimistic. I love that.
Yeah, I had, instead of parking my car in the garage, I had like my garage filled with shelves and things that I was getting ready. I knew I was going to do it. I just didn't know when and where.
So smart. Well, how did you choose Old Town?
Well, I mean, I feel like in the Lansing area, Old Town is the art district. That's where most of the art galleries are. I've looked at a couple other places, and it just didn't seem to fit what I wanted to do. And so I started like stalking Old Town because there was no space available when I started looking. And I went to visit a space on a Wednesday, and I was like, okay, well, let me sleep on it. And I'm pretty sure that I want this. And I called him the next day, and he was like, we've already rented this space.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, can you tell me who you rented it to? And so then I went and tried to get that space from the person that was renting the space that I had looked at. So that's how I ended up where I'm at now.
That's great. So talk about what Catalyst looked like in those early years. Did it always feature local artists?
Yeah, I knew from the beginning, like being an artist myself, and I worked with a lot of artists in the newspaper industry. And so I knew I wanted, when I opened the doors, I wanted to feature my art and their art and other people that I had met in the Lansing area. And so that's kind of how that started. I started with a coworker's art on the wall and my own, as being like the first featured artist. I knew like from the beginning I wanted to feature a different local artist every month, and that kind of fit in at the time with what they called the gallery walk that happened
Mhm.
every Sunday. So every or the first Sunday of every month. So that's when I would feature my new artist, and then the Arts Council progressed and they became or that event became Arts Night Out that happened on Friday or the first Friday of every month except for holiday weekends. So that was like the natural progression of leading into that. So I opened my doors like starting with featuring a new artist every month.
Well, and you've been a big supporter of the Arts Night Out, Arts Council initiative from the very beginning. How has that helped your business and helped your art?
Well, I feel like it just broadens the audience. Like the Arts Council really shined a light on the local talent that we have. And it was just like a natural partnership, like something that I'm already doing, partnered with the Arts Council, who is really like broadening the audience for all of the Lansing artists. And just, it was a no brainer to be involved in that.
Well, and you're a literal neighbor of the Arts Council
Yeah.
of Greater Lansing, and you've been a member for a number of years. How did you initially connect with them, and what is that relationship like for you?
Well, at first I thought like there wasn't a need for me to be part of the Arts Council. I mean, maybe as an artist, but not like as a gallery. But the longer I was there, the more, you learn like I support them, they support me. It's this whole like neighborhood of like really cool artists and really cool people that all just want to help each other grow and become better. So that's really how that began. Like I didn't start out at first as being a member, but now it's like, a must. And I always tell all of my artists that are being featured there that they really need to get involved because that's going to be a stepping stone for them. Like the Arts Council does so many great things for all the artists in our community, and placemaking, and just does such a wonderful job in our community that they really need to be involved in that and like learning from other artists and growing themselves in that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about the artists you feature in your shop, and we touched a little bit on your art, but I want to hear more about your art. What is it that you love to create, and what of yours have you been featuring in the shop through the years?
Well, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, so I've kind of like dabbled in a little bit of everything. But one of my concentrations was in graphic design and photography. So mostly you'll see in my art gallery my photography, but I have done some digital art and paintings and things like that. Like I don't have as much of that as I do my photography. Mostly I'm concentrated on that and, growing my business, and that takes a lot of my attention and time.
Sure.
And then like, with every month we hang a new show and take a new show down. And so it's just, a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what has surprised you about combining a gallery and a boutique into one business?
Just how it seems like how naturally they go together.
Mm.
Like I need one to support the other. So I feel like, having the artist every month brings in like their group of people that are supporting them, and they get to see like the other artists and the other like art atmosphere that we have created in Catalyst. So um it, just that they like go so well together, like they support each other.
Well, even from a shopping perspective, they seem to support each other well too, because when I come in there, I think of it as these are all ways to make your surroundings more beautiful, whether it's something that you're putting on your body or on your walls or on a table somewhere that like they all are kind of dancing with each other to bring that art into your life and into your space. And it's for me it's always felt that way, and I think it speaks to how thoughtfully you've curated what goes in there. How much work is that to do, because there's got to be a million things to choose from. How do you
Right.
whittle that down?
There is. I like really having unique things myself. So I like to wear things and have things that nobody else has that makes like your experience unique to you. So that's what I'm just looking for, like unique pieces that you're not going to see everybody else wearing out there.
Well, Old Town merchants, speaking of shopping, do a great job of promoting the concept of shop local, and particularly during the holiday season. What impact does that have on businesses like yours and on the region as a whole when people choose to spend their dollars locally?
Well, I've done some research on this because I wanted to have like some real facts and figures for you as we talked about it. But it was astounding to me. And like every time that I look this up, it always really hits home that like um, $68 for every $100 that is spent in your community remains in your community. So,
Yeah.
like, whether that's like the person that you're paying, your accountant, your light bill, paying taxes, all of that money stays like 70% of that, almost 70%, 68,
Mhm.
stays right in the community and goes right back in. So, like, whereas a big box store, um, the other statistic that I had was that like when you spend in a local store, it goes back and revolves around the community 6 to 15 times. So
Wow.
like every single dollar, it's like going back around. So it's just a lot of like money that stays in your community and that helps your economy grow.
Hmm.
So it's just so important, um, not just for me, but for everybody,
Yeah.
for our whole community.
So, what do you have planned for Catalyst for the holidays?
Pretty much the same old, same old. I have really cool like water globes that like turn different colors and swirl around that are really fun. For this month, I have an artist, Christine Beals, who does. I'm probably not going to describe it the way that she would describe it, but she does pictures of animals and um, like all sorts of different like rockets and meteors and stuff like that in like a quilt pattern.
Ooh,
Yeah, so they're really like graphic and interesting, and she does these all on wood, so it's just really cool, all of her work. So that's like something that I have had things, but we're featuring her for November, so that will be like one of the main shining pieces. Like you'll see all of her work all over the walls
that's great.
and her ornaments too. So
Oh, nice, nice. So what is the future of Catalyst? What do you have some big plans brewing? Do you have just some real good momentum behind you and you're happy to be where you are and keep growing in the community?
um yes, I have some things that I would like to see happen. We recently started carrying a little more clothing, and so some like handmade pieces that are made in the United States, and also pieces that have like artist prints on them. So we're kind of like growing in that arena, but that's one of the areas that we're venturing into.
Very cool. So if people are interested now in all the stuff we've been talking about, and I know you've got a lot of social media presence, where can people find you online in addition to going to the store, which I highly recommend?
So you can find us on our website at catalystgallery.com, or you can find us on Facebook. We're also on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on TikTok. So, like all of the social media channels, pretty much, you can find us there. And I try
Tell
to
me what you're
share
doing on TikTok. I am excited to hear about this.
I just make little videos. It's usually of our merchandise.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of me on there. Like I have a little, there are some like where I'm like, saying like, oh, we got this in, and I don't have a lot of like video content in that way, but we make little videos about like the new merchandise that has just shown up. And so like what's new and what's happening in the gallery right now.
That's great. I mean, honestly, it just feels like another artistic way to express the work you're doing is just through these ever evolving and expanding social media platforms,
Right? I feel like the more you know, the less you know. It's
right?
like one of those things where it's just like it's so cool, but it's also so overwhelming as like being, the person who does most of all of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, now here's another thing that I need to know. But it's
Right.
really fun. I mean, it's very entertaining and it's fun. You get lost, especially like in TikTok, you fall down the rabbit hole and you're on there forever.
But it's also, I would imagine, a great way to discover new art and new artists and just new corners of the community, even though you should theoretically have access to them because we're just here in Lansing with them. But I find every time I'm on, I encounter new pieces of Lansing that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's really cool to like, just like your friends to keep up with like everyone's art and what the new thing that they're doing, what is their new series and how can I help promote that or what's, happening in the Lansing area. I have so many people say like, "Oh, this is so boring. There's nothing going on." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many things going on. Let me tell you."
That was always my biggest frustration when I worked at the newspaper too, is people would say there's nothing happening, and I would say, "I literally just put 6 pages of things happening in the newspaper. Please find the things because there's a lot of cool stuff happening here."
Yes, there is
Well,
much.
Sarah, thank you so much for talking with me today. This was really fun to hear more about the background of Catalyst and your path to bringing it to Old Town, and I hope people check you out this holiday season.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been an honor. It's so cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. This podcast has been a production of the Arts Council of Greater Lansing. To learn more about them, go to lansingarts.org.